Live stream.
Oh man, we're waiting on technology, aren't we always?
That damn tech. And we are live. Boom.
Okay, in the meantime, while we're waiting, I'm going to call out some people from the audience. I would like to call out Roxy right here.
Hey guys.
Roxy runs the Lab Miami. It is a center of innovation. It's been around since this was the blockchain city. I would like to call out Eric right here sitting next to him. Eric he founded the Blockchain Education Network, Ben, if you've heard them before. They have the largest, let's say, network of student organizations at different universities that teach around Bitcoin and blockchain. I would like to shout out Johnny Dollar, who's got some art here in the back. He was telling you about NFTs way before they were this cool, hot, trendy thing. So if you want to learn about it, I would definitely talk to Johnny. Where's Johnny? All right. We'll find Johnny. We have Maria right here. Maria is a great PR agent. Maria, say hello. Through the Crypto Gala. If you guys went to the Crypto Gala on Friday night, that was her party. Who else wants a shout out? And then, of course, we have Tatiana Moroz. You guys give it up for Tatiana. She lives here and she's hosting us. So Tatiana was the first person to make an artist coin on the blockchain. Back when did you first make it, Tatiana?
2014
on Bitcoin Counterparty. Tatiana coin. Let's pump Tatiana coin tonight. Cool. Okay, and then we're going to introduce each of our panelists. I'm going to host the panel. Oh, of course, Pravi right here, you guys. He runs a lot of local VR, AR stuff, just gaming, really involved in the technology. And who is the local Bitcoin meetup here tonight? Okay, there we go. You guys, there's a local Bitcoin meetup that happens, I think, every other Wednesday. So please talk to him for information about that. My name is Eryka. I opened up a Bitcoin center in downtown Miami with Nick Spanos and Scott Spiegel back in 2018-19. And it was before Miami was this Bitcoin hub. You know, the mayor has always been really supportive of what we're doing. He did a ribbon cutting ceremony, and that weekend, Bitcoin went above $10,000 for the second time, which was awesome. And I'm not going to say it was because of our party, but I'm going to say that it was the energy of the room. And I feel that again now, you know, here we are this entire week and a half long of activities. There's still conferences and events going on. And it's the energy of people coming here, wanting to learn. And I think there was something that was really cool that was said on stage today by that bald guy that's famous in a Shark Tank. I don't know his name, but you guys probably, yeah, that guy. So what he said was that, he said that coin, people talk about Bitcoin and they think it's a coin. It's not, it's software. And guess what? Really smart people understand software. And you guys are really smart people to understand that. And the next, I would say, generation is coming in. And they are people who are smart enough to understand that the shift is going on. So you guys are definitely in the right place, learning about the right thing because the world is changing. And we're going to talk about that. So let my panelists introduce themselves. And we'll keep this short because nobody loves a really long panel, so we can keep networking. But by the way, the turnout was so good that we ran out of food. So there'll be other places to eat after.
Not fast. Hey guys, we are live streaming this. Just so you know. So I want to sit here, so maybe you guys slide over.
Okay.
And I also want to move on.
Would you like to get a
Can we get on a chair? Either way, I gotta be on the corner. Come on. As always, doing two jobs at once. All right, well, we can all move up a little bit, so I don't look like a retard.
No, it's better that we stay this way because moving is better.
All right. So, wait, I gotta move the camera.
Okay, while we're waiting for technical difficulties.
Nope, no technical difficulties. We actually have a big crowd. I don't want to like reverse the camera and stuff, but awesome crowd. Thank you guys for coming. We do have two microphones, so maybe
we have one
we will
here.
hold one here.
Should we pass them around?
No, you just hold them near each other.
Right, let's just get started though with the people IRL.
Actually, it should be fine over here.
Yeah, let's get started with the people IRL.
Actually, don't worry. The sound Nazis in the Zoom will tell us if there's audio problems. All right, I think it should be fine like this.
All right, so let's start on this end. Tone, if you want to introduce yourself, if they don't already know you, tell them where to find you, where you're live streaming if you want to watch this later.
Oh yeah, hey guys, my name is Vays. You'll find me all over the internet as Vays. This is being live streamed on the Vays YouTube channel, so you can find that. I did tweet it out as well. Thank everyone on this panel. Oh man, are you speaking about Bitcoin and the three parts of Bitcoin: Bitcoin, the technology; Bitcoin, the social economic revolution; and also the Bitcoin tradable financial asset. I come from the Wall Street environment, and now I organize events: Unconfiscatable in Las Vegas, Bitcoin conference, the financial summit. The next one is in the Dominican Republic. But anyway, I think a lot of you are familiar with my work, so I'm gonna let Gorgeous Lady speak.
Hi, I'm Mir BTC on Twitter. I also have a surname, but nobody knows me with that. And I've been around in the Bitcoin space since some years. And I work for the BHP network. And I think one of my most successful things in the field has been the Bitcoin Milan meetup, who has been organized since 2015. And we have organized something like 50 meetups. And we grew so much. We had so many incredible guests. So I'm always supporting meetups all over the world, because for me it has been life-changing, because I've learned through the meetup and then I organized it in my city. And it's it's great to make connection and to learn. And so happy to be here in Miami.
Hi, everybody. My name is Giacomo Zuco. I'm also Mir's husband. And my traditional education is in physics, and my fiat job was consultancy. Now I mostly do Bitcoin consultancy since 2013, mostly in Switzerland. I did help a little bit to organize the meetups and the conferences in Milan, and a research laboratory in Milan was called Blockchain Lab. The name was a little bit scammy, blockchain, but I mean, you know how marketing is. But it was mostly about Bitcoin, 99.9%, especially at the end. And I am the annoying guy. So everybody else will.
I can confirm.
Yeah. So in order to learn, you have to suffer. So you need somebody annoying, and I will be that guy in this panel tonight.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because when we opened up, to me, it was the Bitcoin Center, and we called it Blockchain Center because it was more politically friendly in the climate of technology at the time. But it definitely, people would come into the Blockchain Center and we would teach them about how the money system is failing, how we need alternatives, and how the alternatives are here. So it was pretty interesting to see that you guys had the same strategy hosting meetups in Italy.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Milan initially.
Milan, perfect. All right, go ahead, babe.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tatiana Rose. I am the hostess partially because this is my building, so welcome. I just moved to Miami. First starting out as a singer-songwriter company. I'm doing a TV show about Bitcoin City, Miami, and a lot of other things. So happy to be talking with you. And I have a new album coming out. So
Very cool. All right, guys, let's just so we can gauge, so that way they can give you the best answers for the audience. How many of you guys went to the Bitcoin conference? Not expose you. All right, and then how about the surrounding parties? Very cool. Okay, so the first question for you guys, so you guys attended the conference.
Yeah.
Short bullet points, things that you heard there. Really want to make sure those messages come on to our crowd now. Please share them. Like anything cool that was announced, that happened. I know there were some country announcements that occurred.
I have something. Guest here. She was not on the guest invitation. Bricked over here.
Oh.
Mother of Ross Ulbricht, and she was presenting more artwork by Ross. So they're doing some new NFTs now. If you guys want to find out more about the artwork or any of Lynn's efforts to free Ross and anything, she's over there. We also have. Please sign the petition. Yes, please sign the petition.
freeross.org, you guys. Ross represents all of us.
Also, we have two classic crypto artists here. So we've got Johnny Dollar back there, and we've got Gus. So make sure you guys go and say hello.
Oh yeah, Gus. So we gotta start crying about you, but it's ours great, so can't be forgotten.
the announcement were basically as far as nation state adoption and let's say legal tenders go. There is one city on an island in Honduras, which is Prospera, which is already the place where the free city movement project, private city movement was trying to put the seed. So it's good, not bad. And then there is the island of Madeira under Portugal. Of course, a local place cannot really impose any legal tender, which I will argue is even better from a libertarian point of view, because instead of having a law forcing people from a top-down approach, you have an organic growth and just some promotion. It's even better. But from the point of view of things that will change, I think that in Madeira and Honduras will not change that much. Jack Mother's announcement was basically a facilitation of spending Bitcoin in traditional stores and chains by integrating Strike with point of sale technology, basically. Even that is, I have to say, the presentation of Jack was super nice. The presentation explaining how the payment rails work was funny and accurate and effective. The announcement itself may have been overhyped the previous days because it's something that, I mean, some partnership with point of sale technology was already announced by BitPay in 2014. So it's nothing new. The point about Bitcoin is that people in the privileged first world countries will adopt it mostly for saving. And people that will spend Bitcoin will mostly be people that have only Bitcoin to spend. So it's a subset of users. So having something like that in El Salvador, it's a third world country with a concentration of rich Bitcoiners that may make a difference. While spending McDonald's, not sure is a very short-term change, but I mean, it's all of that is a positive, net positive stuff. So good.
Yeah. Definitely, I agree with sentiment. Net positive, but sometimes I hate the hype. Overhype is just not my thing. But talking about hype, let's talk about, if you have an answer.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, like the island of the coast of Honduras, right? The autonomous region. Like they should just say, we'll accept whatever. Like, I don't understand the legal tender. Like, how is it legal tender if you're not a sovereign country? I'm a little confused there.
What they did, like in Lugano.
Hype. So next question. All right, so we're going to talk about price appreciation a little bit, but since we're talking about things that I liked hearing from, just some like bullet points. Kathy Wood, ARC, said in 2030, Bitcoin will be $1 million. Michael Saylor said 2.5% of all institutional assets will be in Bitcoin. Says that capital markets are driving growth of new asset class. Peter Thiel said Bitcoin 100x from here and the most honest market on earth. Completely agree, the most honest market on earth. Even when we DeFi, it's an honest calculation of the money in circulation. Dan Tapiro said Bitcoin 500K at least in 10 years and fiat cash 14% debasement over the last 16 years. Mike Novogratz said 500K to 1 million in 2025, but concerned that Bitcoin will rise too fast and the politicians will screw it up. Kevin O'Leary says Bitcoin will be the 12th sector in the S&P by 2029. We will see 90% global adoption by 2029. Price predictions for you guys, since that's always interesting.
I just want to say before the Tone is the price prediction guy, but before there's a trick here. I mean, saying that Bitcoin will go to $1 million is probably conservative because what will buy $1 million in a few years if the Fed keeps printing like this? So there's a trick there. So the demand for Bitcoin, I think, will grow and the dollar value will grow more because the supply of dollars will grow even more. So there is a little always, so we have to adjust a little bit this prediction. That said, conservative. Tone?
Well, I can say that one Bitcoin will be one Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true completely.
And for unit bias, it will always be 100 millions of Satoshi. So
yeah.
So Bitcoin are the old thing. The new thing is Satoshis. Just teach people. How many people are telling you I cannot afford the old Bitcoin? They think they get this bias from the stock market where you cannot subdivide the stock less than something. So they think they cannot buy anything under one Bitcoin. So let's keep shilling Satoshis instead. It's easier.
Yeah, I would say that the fractionalized selling of stocks only happened because the stock market got jealous that people were going to Bitcoin because they could buy fractions. And then you saw Robinhood come out with fractional sales, and that's how you see the market is adopting or adapting to what the demand is asking for. Tone, everyone's waiting.
I really like this dip. We just dipped under 40,000. Look, I don't know how low we're gonna dip here, but the time is so limited. At some point this quarter, Bitcoin is gonna turn around and it's gonna start significantly rise. And it doesn't matter if it gets down to 30,000, 28,000, or it's about to, or it reversed 10 minutes ago. I really think these next 2 to 3 months is like your last chance to buy Bitcoin under 50,000. If you get lucky and you buy it at 31K, great, but it won't matter. And I think by end of year, this will be that last chance to buy Bitcoin real low, because hodlers are taking that Bitcoin right off the exchange, and the liquidity is really drying up. And
what's the statistic that right now there's the least amount of Bitcoin on the exchanges
Right.
than ever before in terms of percentage wise?
now that's good and bad. The bad part is when there's little Bitcoin on the exchange, and I hate to use the word manipulation, but you can manipulate the price. But there's a difference between like an unfair manipulation and a fair manipulation. And I'm a poker player. How many of you guys here play poker?
Yeah, me too. I
What?
took their
So-
money before.
Here's the difference between fair manipulation and unfair manipulation. When you're sitting at a poker table and everyone just put in a few $100 and some guy sits down with like $8,000, he's gonna manipulate the poker game because he just has a lot more money. But as long as he's playing by the same rules, he doesn't see your cards, he's not best friends with the dealer, he's playing by the same rules. And that means the manipulation is fair. It is fair, open market. So never be scared of anyone manipulating the price of any asset as long as they're playing by the same rules as you. And while the low liquidity on exchanges could give you that illusion that some big whales can move the price up or down, eventually there's not going to be enough Bitcoin to go around. And there's only one way it's going to go, and it's going to go up. So don't even be scared if the price of Bitcoin dips down to 30. I think this is that last buying opportunity below 50K, because once it shoots up, it's going to shoot up. It'll probably pull back down to 75 to maybe as low as 50. And it can't even come down from $250,000 or 500K. It's going to feel bad when we come down from 500K back down to 60. But I still think this is the last opportunity to buy it under 50K.
Very good. Now, you guys saw that Cash App, and I always, when people ask me about Bitcoin, I always recommend them to buy it on Cash App. Super easy. If you don't have Cash App, ask a friend who has Cash App, because I think you both get like $15 if you sign up using someone else's link. But you can literally buy Bitcoin on Cash App, and I recommend on Cash App over Coinbase and over like, don't buy on PayPal, don't buy on Robinhood, because like we're talking about here, if that Bitcoin is not able to be delivered to your own wallet, if you're not able to take it off the exchange, you're not able to on Robinhood, you're not able to on PayPal, then you're not really buying Bitcoin, right? You're buying something else, but it's not Bitcoin.
May I add something? I would actually personally suggest, that's my preference, to also avoid Coinbase and in general to avoid the KYC traps. What I mean is that when you buy with KYC, you enter a list which includes your name, home address, withdrawal transaction, and this list is shared among 20 or 30 agencies and hundreds of people. Eventually it will leak, and it will be very bad to have people with your private financial information leaked on an open chain. So even if there is a premium to buy KYC free from ATMs, from peer-to-peer people, I will definitely avoid KYC, and especially as bad KYC as Coinbase. These are the guys that hired the neutrino people spying Saudi dissidents in order for the Saudi government to kill them. So not the best people in the space.
Yeah. Also, another way is mining your own Bitcoin.
Yep.
Mining your own Bitcoin, plug a miner in, point it towards a mining pool, and you're going to see you're going to get clean Bitcoin and in other ways. So anyways, all right. I love that we talk about countries. I know these people very well. Actually, I just met you. Nice to meet you. But the other three, and I'm sure you're very similar because you guys are married. But
No.
I know that.
Well, she's prettier.
Oh, no, I mean in your mindset. Like you guys are people that I consider the forward-thinking people who really understand the world for how it is and not how we're told to understand it. So let's talk about maybe some geopolitical events and how we think that it's going to affect the price of Bitcoin. The first one, everyone knows about this Russia-Ukraine war that's going on. What do we think is going to happen with Bitcoin based on these geopolitical issues?
I thought it was gonna go up a lot faster based on all of this, right? Didn't everybody think, okay, this is our moment, guys, straight to the moon? I mean, that's not really the ideal moment to do it, but I like the idea that there are people on both sides that can access Bitcoin, and that is a escape route for them, but I don't think that's enough.
Yeah.
And I thought that it would become more popular already, you know?
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
I think that it's good that people could use Bitcoin at scale in a very public way to avoid violence. So people, Ukraine people escaping the Ukrainian government for the draft at the borders, that was cool. Ukraine itself getting some donations to counteract the Russian attack, that was cool. Russian people around the world being randomly seized of their own property, that was cool. They used often Bitcoin to basically go around this kind of aggression. So that was cool. It didn't impact the price much, but it was, I think, made very clear that Bitcoin is not just yet another stock market speculation tool. It's actually a tool for escaping violent aggression by the state in financial matters. But that was very nice. It didn't impact the price that much, but I think it will, not just because people will use it to avoid this kind of aggressions, but the aggressors, all the state aggressors, will print a lot of money in order to aggress. That's basically what central banks do. They finance war, basically.
Yeah.
So when there is war, there will be printing. When there is printing, there is inflation. When there is inflation, Bitcoin is a safe haven. So good.
Okay, so the economic side of it is super interesting, and I am watching it very, very carefully. I'm not going to get into the geopolitics side of it, but from the finance perspective, so the US dollar has the world reserve currency and also the control of the rails. US dollar is the currency, SWIFT are the rails. In the world of Bitcoin, we have Bitcoin, the rails, and Bitcoin, the currency. Satoshi needed to create his own rails for Bitcoin to be moved around on, otherwise it would get censored. And people are now realizing what happens when you control the rails, not necessarily the currency. The US dollar doesn't need the SWIFT system anymore for the rails. Tether is the US dollar outside of the SWIFT rails. But Tether is not going to be the global currency. What we're witnessing right now is Russia, China, and probably India are going to build a new rail for financial transactions.
For sure.
Now, what currency is going to be on that rail, we don't know yet. They could come up with another currency, or they could build a rail for their own currencies, Chinese yuan, Russian ruble, and Indian rupee. India is actually a big player. Again, the country with the most people. So this is a very interesting dynamic. So are we going to go to a world with two rails and two currencies, or two rails and one of those rails is a multi-currency rail? And as we get to this world of multiple rails and multiple currencies on these rails, Bitcoin could end up being that one uniter. So again, this is the world of multiple shitcoins, but now there's going to be multiple rails. Now, when a disaster happens, and we saw this in 2008, when the financial market crashed, all of the gold bugs thought gold would explode. But what happened? In 2008, gold crashed 33% or more. And 33% for gold is big. That's because when bad shit happens, people sell whatever they need to put food on the table. It's after the fact, when they get to think and they get to relax and they realize they get to survive, now they start looking into alternatives. So same thing, if like it's too late for the Greeks to buy Bitcoin when the bank system shut down. It's too late. So right now we're witnessing this panic, and you kind of sell everything and hoard like the US dollar or cash or bullets or whatever.
But I would say
But-
to your point, you
Yeah,
want to
go
finish? Okay. To his point of rails, right? So these rails, we understand that the payment channels, the way that we're paying each other on a blockchain is much more efficient than what currently exists. Now, what he's talking about, I would also add the Iranian dinari to that group of countries. Probably those 4 countries are going to team up and create something. And what they're going to use is the efficient payment channels, payment rails of the blockchain, which leads me to CBDCs, right? One of my favorite topics to talk about, central bank digital currencies. You guys probably saw those people outside that said, oh, Bitcoin's evil, it's the mark of the beast. No, it's not. But because nobody can force you to have Bitcoin. However, the technology of blockchain, just like anything in the world, can be used for good, it can be used for evil. And when we see CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, using the efficient payment rails that blockchain has, we're going to see countries create systems that are going to have a much deeper level of control over our money than ever before. So if you guys want to talk about CBDCs, warn the people, what do you think they are? Explain. And then
Right, I'll talk about it real quick. Just finish up on a point. The Iran thing is super interesting because I'll try to make this quick. So I think if Russia, China, and India form a whole other financial system, the United Arab Emirates would be very interested in that system because they are they built their entire country on freedom of money, and the United States is putting more and more like barriers on what they do. So they would be interested. And Saudi Arabia has been looking at their neighbor, UAE, and they're like, wait a minute, we can do the same thing. But Saudi Arabia and Iran really hate each other. And that creates a bit of a problem. They'd have to somehow make peace. Show my camera. So on CBDCs, I've always said that CBDCs have 2 underlying purposes. And those 2 purposes are governments removal of money from private banks. Now, as much as we all hate Chase and private banks, people have to understand that private banks having the control of money creation is so much better than central and government banks having the control of money creation. The founding fathers kind of knew that here in America, and they gave the power to create money to the private banks, not the central banks. So the central bank digital currencies have 2 goals: the removal of the private banks from the creation of money. And second goal is full monetary surveillance. Okay, so the central bank digital currency is designed to do those 2 things, and it's terrible. Thank God there's Bitcoin, because I have no idea what else we would do. So that's what Bitcoin would do in that case. But keeping an eye on this global thing and how many will people use another rail? I mean, this is intermediate term amazing for Bitcoin, but in the this is why I think this is that last dip, because Bitcoin's about to explode.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to add that it's very important to create a narrative where you can have a sort of a cryptocurrencies that it has been polished in comparison to Bitcoin, which is scary for people. And it's very easy to boost this narrative because when you have something that it's just like Bitcoin, it's just like a cryptocurrencies without the bad stuff, people will believe it, will adopt it, but actually it's just a digital currency. We already have everything. And if you remove from Bitcoin all the amazing properties, is basically something we already have and we don't need. If you remove the censorship resistant of Bitcoin, being borderless, being permissionless, I mean, it's where is the point in creating these kind of currencies? The only point is just destroying alternatives.
Yeah, pretty much agree. I think that CBDC are explicitly the most the furthest away thing from Bitcoin it could exist. They are anti-Bitcoin. They are just hyper fiat. So the whole point of Bitcoin is resisting money printing and monetary based manipulation, and resisting censorship and confiscation and surveillance. So the whole point of CBDC is exactly facilitating both. So if you have to print a fantastillion of dollars with paper, you still need some kind of money haste situation where you actually have the time to print paper. If you do that with a CBDC, you can just do that with a click. If you want to confiscate people because of their political choices, of their opinion, because of their medical choices, you can do that with cash. By me, you have to go home to actually threaten them with a gun. It's doable, but expensive. With the CBDC, that's immediately doable with a click. So CBDC, it's funny that they are marketing as something Bitcoin-like, because there's explicitly, they are like super hyper fiat money in every single regard, except for marketing, which is a Bitcoin sounding in order to lure people in. But it's just blockchain is market. I mean, I would disagree blockchains are efficient. They are created in order to sustain Bitcoin. They are inefficient, but they are anti-fragile. Decentralization is not efficient. Decentralization is inefficient, but anti-fragile, difficult to take over, resilient to political aggression. While centralization is very efficient, like a spreadsheet is way more efficient than Bitcoin, but you can change it and you can edit it because it's not resilient to political aggression, to be compromised. So this stuff is just fiat under a new marketing.
Anything about CBDCs you want to say?
I don't understand why anybody would be excited about CBDCs. That's the opposite of why I make, like, we already have banks. That's why we make Bitcoin
Well,
stuff.
But when
happen.
you see though, like the Federal Reserve Chairman, he says CBDCs are inevitable. It's only a matter of time. There's a paper put out by the Bank of International Settlements. 18 different countries are already putting this out. The digital yuan is already out and already on there. What is that, Alipay or whatever that main app that everyone has? It's literally already distributed. So we're seeing this happen and it's in real time. But exactly what they were talking about, they're going to be able to control the velocity of money. Hey, remember when everyone distributed stimulus checks? And there was that big thing like, how can we do this efficiently? And how they're going to distribute stimulus checks once the dollar crashes, which I predict that it will, is going to be a CBDC. And then you take it one step further. So they're going to tell you, download this app, do your KYC AML. We'll send you your money that you can spend, but you can spend it only at store A, B, C, D. And you can only spend it within 3 months. You don't spend it within 3 months, take it back. You say something negative, you make a different medical decision for yourself, they can shut down your account super quick as they wish, right? And this is the thing about blockchain, is that, or about anything, is that it allows for certain things that can be used for good and allows for certain things that can be used for evil. Before Tone, I know you have one more comment, but there is a patent that was signed in, I think, March or May of 2020. This patent number is 2020-060606. Who filed it? Microsoft, AKA Bill Gates. How does it read? It's a device that reads your body data that rewards you in cryptocurrency for performing certain tasks. It could be something that is a watch, that reads, and there are people who say that what it's going to do is it's going to be like a Fitbit and it's going to read you and it's going to reward you for working out. But yeah, fucking right. They're not going to reward people for working out, right? That's not what's going to happen. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that patent. But these are real things that are happening using the technology we're all trying to learn about.
Yeah, no, I already mentioned it. And this audience is way more sophisticated and knowledgeable about central banks and the traditional banks. But to the rest of the normies. And the government has done a great job of making people, and the libertarians did this as well, of making people hate the private banks. And I think that was misguided. And it's kind of like us fighting against each other. And for the same reason why there is this thought that the central bank is controlled by private banks and private families. The central bank is controlled by the government. And the private banks are not your enemy. The central bank is the enemy. And the central bank and the government is convincing the people that they will just hand them money once they sign up for this central bank banking system. Because the central government is also on a mission to hurt the private banks. The private bank does not want to KYC you. They don't want to freeze your account. They don't want to report your account to the IRS. They don't want to report your account to any other agency. The private bank just wants to make money from your money. But they're being forced to do all that stuff by the government. So I think there is a hate to the private banks a bit unjustly. I understand why that's happening, but the real problem is the government's control of the central bank. And hopefully Bitcoin can break both of them apart.
A small addition to that, sorry, just a small addition. I agree with the general sentiment. The private bank should not want to freeze you or bother you because it's just business. They want just to serve you to get your money. That's not really the case because we don't have private banks, basically. We have banks that in most cases are controlled by political
They're
consortiums.
deputized to track
like-
your finances by the government.
It's like,
and they
you know,
force them to do it.
when you have the East India Company trading spices, it's not really merchants. It's just the royal, the English crown that is just disguised as a commercial company, but it's controlled by politicians who outside of the market in full monopoly without competition. If you meet with a bank guy right now, 10% of his work is to try to find clients, and 90% is just getting money from getting bailouts from the government in order to enforce government function in their behalf. I agree with Tone that it's better to have this kind of decentralization of bad stuff instead of re-centralizing it under the central bank. That would be even worse.
Okay, so we're gonna end this on 2 more social questions light, and then we'll do Q&A. If you guys want to keep going, we can. There is a beautiful deck out there, so if you guys want to start networking, feel free to as well. But we'll start this on 2 light ends, and then we'll do Q&A because it seems like everybody's pretty interested. The first thing is there anything that you guys wish you knew back then that you know now that you hope you could share? That way people won't make the same
Back then,
mistake. When you just, over your course of Bitcoin.
I have a really basic one. Don't try and trick yourself into hiding your private keys into a place, because you know what I mean? Like, do you ever try and trick yourself so well that you actually trick yourself, but you're trying to be really sneaky? Like, don't be sneaky. Don't come up with some weird thing. Just come up with something really straightforward, because operator error is a real problem.
That's a good one. That's really
Yeah.
good. I would say personally, one thing that I wish I knew back then that I knew now, but I can't regret it because it brought me here. I would love to have stayed very, very private about my involvement in all this stuff. If I could have, I would have, but then I think Miami might not be what it is, so I had to. But if you can stay private and you have the ability to, do so.
Yeah, seconded. Low profile is underrated. Now for us, it's sunk cost
too late.
fallacy.
Too late, too late
At this
for
point,
some
we
of
just may as well have fun, but it is underrated.
Yeah. Also, don't feel discouraged because Bitcoin is a multidisciplinary creature. So you are not going to get it easily. It's not because we are stupid, but it really gets a lot of effort, a lot of time, and it's completely normal. But the rabbit hole you get into thanks to Bitcoin, it's really rewarding, even more the price. It's the human factor, and everything you are going to learn is totally worth it, but it's hard.
Come for the Lambo, stay for the revolution.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm with you on staying a little more private. That was great.
It's too
I'll
late.
say this, don't ever regret not getting into Bitcoin earlier than you did, because that is something you could not control. We all looked at Bitcoin at least 1 year, on average 1.5 years, before we bought our first Satoshi. Every single one of us did that, okay? There's nothing you can do about that. But I wish I did not invest that Bitcoin into shit I knew nothing about, okay? That is something you could have controlled, okay?
Like his watch.
I'm happy with that decision.
How much was your watch, Tone?
We're live streaming. Let's not discuss this. But so the only thing is, just hold on to your sats, guys. There's so few investments that would outperform Bitcoin on a risk-adjusted basis.
On a
Risk-adjusted basis. On a risk-adjusted basis, there are so few things that would outperform Bitcoin. Like, if you're going to be investing your Bitcoin into something, make sure, I say, it has to benefit the network. It has to spread Bitcoin adoption in some way so that the rest of the Bitcoin you have would become more valuable to make up for the loss, because it's very unlikely that particular thing alone would outperform Bitcoin, but if it helps the Bitcoin network, then the rest of your savings would benefit and make up for that difference. So if that is something I really knew early on, I would have done much better.
Just a very small clarification. I know you're all aware that any kind of unknown shitcoin overperform Bitcoin at least in one data point, even Tentacoin or whatever. The point is that these are derivatives basically. They overperform Bitcoin when Bitcoin goes up, and they seriously underperform Bitcoin when it goes down. So what
and it's worse than that, because you only hear about the ones that did outperform it on a short period of time.
There's a selection
you don't
bias.
hear about the other 1,000 that didn't.
So selection bias, and basically they follow Bitcoin price with stronger beta. So it's just like leveraging Bitcoin. So just avoid shitcoins.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of hype, right? So any questions you guys have for our
Question
wonderful
to the
panel?
audience. Hey, come on up because we have
Gemini
a microphone.
t-shirt?
No. You got to come up and you just got to stand
And
right in front.
project
No,
for the
you don't have to
people as
hold.
well,
Just
please.
stand right there and you're good.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, I got a Gemini t-shirt. Full disclosure, I work for Gemini. I'm a senior enterprise infrastructure engineer, so I'm on the engineering side.
We
But
don't hate Gemini as much as we hate Coinbase, so.
Yeah.
That is true.
You are the best.
We actually I like Gemini.
thank you very much. So actually, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I have two questions. One of them was involving adoption. What do you feel would be a good route to get more people adopted into the space? Because as an engineer, naturally, a lot of the techie stuff, it comes to me pretty easily. But when I try and get someone like even my mom or my dad, even though I work for a relatively big exchange, it's still kind of hard to get people into the space. Even like my brothers, for example. Sure, of course, like some companies would come out with products like really not to try and shill anything, but like we got a credit card where you have cashback rewards where every single time you swipe, you get Bitcoin. So maybe some people will get adoption that way.
You're focusing on the wrong generation. Start like your
Start
brothers and
lower.
sisters.
Yeah,
Every time you see their kids, give them $10 to $20 in Bitcoin. You're focusing on the wrong generation.
It's gifting. I
Just-
feel like
gifting.
gifting. You got to gift people Bitcoin for learning, for downloading it, and then as they see it grow, they're gonna get interested.
Yeah, and then on that same route, when it comes to adoption and also talking about private banks, do you foresee anything positive or negative about? I kind of feel that with relatively all exchanges these days, Robinhood, Coinbase, mine, and others coming out with debit/credit cards, that they're not looking to be banks themselves, and then also get people to just have accounts with them, and then also try and get just into the habit of trading and spending crypto. But I feel like people who know crypto now don't want to do anything with it because of how regulation entails, how we're pretty much double taxed
Yeah.
every single time we spend it. So what do you feel is that next big hurdle that we need for widespread adoption?
Yeah,
I have my dreams. but-
Oh, sorry.
No, I have dreams, but I shouldn't talk about them out loud.
Well, I'm a libertarian, so I don't like to assign functions to governments, but Bitcoin marketing is probably the best function of the government. The more the government will start to censor people, to basically rob people, to confiscate people, and to inflate people into poverty, the more people will understand Bitcoin. Unfortunately, Bitcoin is a defensive weapon, so it's very difficult to get it during a peaceful time. You understand the shield when you start to get swords against you. So I think governments will eventually do a very good job at spreading
Kind of
adoption.
marketing into it, yeah. This is why you
Yeah.
see adoption so big in Latin America and countries that they don't have the privilege of having a
Yeah,
relatively stable
Venezuela,
currency like the dollar. Yeah. So it's just gonna be, and the way that I think about it is like every single time there's been great calamity, there's always been an answer. When what happened in Great Britain and they were being taxed so much, what was the answer? The smart people, they moved to America and they created an entirely new nation, right? And that was their saving grace. And it was this beautiful Declaration of Independence that was written and the Constitution, really, really freedom-minded. And now here we are, hundreds of years later, and we're in this same time frame, you guys. We can't help it. I wish the Federal Reserve would stop printing money, but there's nothing I can do about it. So what can we do? Thankfully, we have something that is our lifeboat that we can, get onto.
To the second question, I was expecting a few years ago, there were a lot of Bitcoin exchanges already back in 2013 trying to become banks, to just get a banking license. And I was expecting actually banks to be a little bit smarter and becoming Bitcoin exchanges. So I think that basically the playing field was unbalanced. If you have a big bank already very good at networking, already very established, becoming a easy Bitcoin exchange, they will basically outcompete immediately these exchanges trying to enter the banking cartel. But that didn't happen yet. So probably the private banking sector was more zombified than I assumed it was. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm not worried about adoption. Unfortunately, the Bitcoin price matters. And I'm so bullish on Latin America, but no one's going to care in Latin America about Bitcoin until Bitcoin breaks $75,000 a coin. And then the other countries are going to realize how smart El Salvador was. So the price really matters right now. No other country is going to adopt Bitcoin at $30,000 a coin. But once it breaks 75K, and they realize that all those dips that Bukele bought game changers.
Very good price for sure.
All right, first of all, thanks a lot for your insight, I appreciate it. Let's say I'm a private bank. I won't tell you who I work with, just cover my shirt. But let's say that I'm a capitalist, right? And that we compete for capital and my job is to maximize, right? As a banker, I'm being innovative. I'm pushing the limits to get for my customers and for myself. The nice thing about having a government or a CBDC or a bank digital currency is I pay taxes so that they can bail out the little guy who hits the fan, which it inevitably will do. Right?
The big
So,
guy, right?
You think that's what they
Bail
do with
out
their
the big guy.
taxes?
Bail out the big guy.
bail out. I mean, there was a lot of
PPP.
PPP funds and anyway, there's money going around for everyone if you knew what you were doing. The question is, why is having a central bank digital currency a bad thing? Since they represent the little, and can printing money when it be a bad thing?
Stealing
Real quick,
money.
survey, who thinks that central banks protect the little guy?
Why is on camera?
Who thinks they protect the big guy? Who thinks that your dollars fund both sides of the war in Afghanistan? That's all I'm saying.
Who thinks that they don't know where money goes?
Oh, yeah, that too.
There we go.
Look, it's so the answer is simple. The central bank is trying to push a social communist financial system. So they sucker people by giving them free money. And it's a lot harder for the government to give people money when the private banks have control of money creation. So they have to remove private bank control of money creation and centralized control of money creation through Treasury and central bank. And that's how they convince the public, not mostly both Democrats, but not, let me not get on this. That's how they convince the public that they are doing the little guy a favor by giving them money. But this is how they take control of the money in order to create this communist control of money supply.
Yeah, the little guy is.
That's why.
I mean, the little guy is the guy right now in Shanghai who is just blocking his home system out without water or food. He's not happy of central bank digital currencies in China. I think that's the model for most CBDC here, communist China. And I don't think it's a model for the little guy. I think it's a model for dictators like Xi.
And I think they sell us on this idea that's beautiful and pure, and I wish it was true. But the fact is that people that get into those upper levels of government, they have power, money, fame on them, and they're willing to do shady things to get there. And so, I mean, they sell this beautiful idea. However, like over time, things will always get manipulated. So maybe you do vote someone into office that is pure and does the right thing, but going to die at some point, and that and you
Let's say that and do that situation. So the government has to print dollars, right, to bail out the country that got invaded, right?
Already go wrong.
Stands at $2 to bail out Ukraine.
They're stealing
How
from
do
the
you,
people.
how do you bail out a country if you have Bitcoin where you can't print more money?
You
You
don't.
don't.
You don't. You don't.
You can't.
That shit happens all the time. It's not the duty of other people to pay it off for someone else.
And they're actually stealing the money from us by printing that money. So all the money
They're
that we
stealing
all
from-
worked
stealing money
for
from our
was
kids.
used to blow somebody else up.
That
Stealing
shit
money from
happens
our
all the
kids.
time.
You can donate. It's
You can
cool
donate,
if you donate
please,
to
yeah.
Ukrainian people to defend themselves. That's
And
very
the
cool.
problem with that is that we now expect the government to do what we as individuals should do. We as individuals should say, no, this is wrong, let's do it. But because we give them the power, we are now taking personal responsibility out of our own hands. And we're saying, oh, they'll take care of it for us, which really weakens us as a society.
Yep.
So I'm not a fan of that at all. But thank you, Kojay, those are great questions.
Brave question.
Thank
Great questions.
Hi. So I have two questions and one feedback to the panel. My name is Dr. Nag. I'm from Zurich.
Dr. Nag from Zurich, I'm gonna project for you.
Hi, thank you. So first question is actually the main selling point of Bitcoin is that you have 21 million coins that are limited, etc. But as you know, you don't need actually to trade Bitcoin, the physical one. You can cash settle derivatives.
Okay, so he's
You can
saying
trade
that,
options.
sorry, they can't hear you, so I'm just gonna project. He's saying that there's 21 million Bitcoin in existence, and that's the main draw towards Bitcoin is a limited supply, but you can buy,
You can trade derivatives around it. You can trade very big sizes.
Yeah, you
You
can trade
don't need
derivatives
actually
for-
to do that,
this is
which
a total
means
question.
indirectly, you can actually trade much bigger sizes without owning the physical one.
Mhm.
And this is proven now because the Bitcoin trade line with the NASDAQ correlation right now, because most of the flow comes from hedge funds and banks and prop shops like that. So the real selling point of limited supply doesn't really matter if you look at two parameters, which is financial conditions index, liquidity in the market, and how the derivatives traded on it control the price of the Bitcoin. So, I mean, what's your comment on owning physical doesn't really anymore matter if you really look at the data. It's moving in line with like actually how the correlations with trade. So the derivatives market is only growing. So actually,
Yeah.
even if you own the physical, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to own the physical to trade it. And trading is determining the price and the volatility. So that's
so this is really, sorry, this is really a tone question, but my quick response, and I hope you guys heard that, I'm sorry, it was long, I couldn't remember everything, but my answer is that it's like saying that you can own paper gold and it's the same as owning physical gold. When shit really hits the fan, you're gonna want the physical gold, and that's the same thing with Bitcoin. So yeah, you can trade it in derivatives and all those different like futures and stuff exist, which I'm really like upset that exists on Bitcoin, but it does. There's nothing I can do about it.
My question is not that. My question is the price is controlled by the derivatives on the futures market, which is much bigger size than the physical one. So you don't need the 21 million limited supply doesn't determine that it's limited supply. You can trade much more than that. Actually,
But that's good.
that's my point.
That's true for every asset. You can issue collateralized credit on any asset and increase its supply. That doesn't mean that there is an unbound level of supply for any asset. It's not that gold will have infinite supply. You have certain additional credit supply, which will be bound by the credit risk, basically the risk that you will not see anything in return. This credit risk right now is difficult to price because it's crazy because of bailouts and everything. So right now it seems like every kind of unpayable debt is still fine with zero risk. That's clearly manipulated, it's clearly realistic, but it doesn't mean that there is an unbounded growth of Bitcoin denominated credit supply. It will still be bounded by failures. I mean, some of them will just be confiscated, will just go bankrupt, will be bailed out, bail in. Some will not, some will Lehman Brothers, some will not, and eventually the market will adjust the supply.
But where's the actual question, right? Because there are things outside of our control, and Giacomo, all free market guys, and you should be able to create derivatives. And if derivatives are controlling the underlying price of Bitcoin, as long as it's a free market, it's fine, because someone is eventually going to get burned. And as long as there's no daddy government to bail them out, they're going to learn a lesson. So the problem is the bailout, not necessarily the fact that the derivative market, like, this is the problem that I have with a lot of people that are trading in finance. They're like, well, the asset is too manipulated. Like, fine. Like don't trade it. Go trade Apple stock. Go trade Google stock. Oh, but they don't have the volatility. Like they don't move fast enough. Like, well, then don't complain about this if you don't want to do the other one, right? Like choose one. So yes, the derivatives market in Bitcoin probably has a bigger influence on the price of Bitcoin than it should, but eventually someone's going to learn a lesson because the market is what matters, and the hodlers will eventually win out. So it's a matter of time. Derivative market kind of gets destroyed. 2008, a little bit of an exception, a little bit. At the time, I thought the banking bailouts were bad. Over the years, I've changed my mind a little bit on that, in that if the government did not bail out the banks, like everything, like every store in America.
You have another ones. I mean,
It's a little,
when your
debatable.
junkie friend is
Like-
going in a withdrawal crisis, how can you help him without new doses of
It could
heroin?
have been handled a little bit better, but anyway, it's a debatable issue. Giacomo and I have had our debate. Like, should the government have bailed out the American industry?
I would say, should the government, you can stop there. No.
Right.
There we go.
So it wasn't a government, really. But the American auto industry have been bailed out. And
No, because they would have been loud cars.
so right now, if the American auto industry would not have been bailed out, there are no American car manufacturers right now. So the cars would come from Asia and Europe.
They would.
And this insanity with America putting sanctions of the world, and potentially America would be the one getting like the cold shoulder from the rest of the world. America would have no way, right? So
I told you guys avoid, but I didn't always do that. I did use empty gox, and I lost 3 Bitcoins on empty gox back then. It was should have been out from that. I mean, I would be happy to have 3 Bitcoins more. Yes, we would be happy. Would have taught me better behavior, better risk. It would have been better from the moral hazard point if everybody stupid to leave Bitcoin on empty was just bailed out. We would just be all stupider. And now we will tell you, just leave your coin on empty gox. Bitcoin is great because we have been robbed by empty gox. We'll probably see nothing again. And that's because we learn by making mistakes and suffering.
All right, how's the crowd feeling? Questions, one more question.
Last question.
3, okay, I think, and guys, like I said, if you guys want to network, if you want to meet people, there is a beautiful by the door. I appreciate everyone
We're not
here.
actually supposed to be setting people out.
Okay,
There is a beautiful view here.
there
as
is a
well.
beautiful view here. But
Last,
okay, go ahead.
so the US financial system works credit,
Can you just
right?
project so everyone?
Sorry, yeah, US financial system based on goods and corporate
credit, yep.
credit deficits, right? So you actually have credit markets are way bigger than the markets, and bond markets actually drive the entire economy. So you actually can borrow money from the market. The biggest corporations are the American ones, Apple, Microsoft, etc. Right? So as long as you combination of the biggest companies that goods and services that sell them and have the inventory in dollar or receive and oil, commodities, gold, everything is priced in dollar. I don't see how Bitcoin can actually replace dollar. Plus,
It's not going to replace the dollar.
it's so I think that
Half the world is about to start pricing stuff in yuan rubles, and potentially a new currency between Russia and India. In 5 to 10 years, half the world will not be pricing stuff in dollars. Will Bitcoin be part of that? I hope so. But the US dollar control of all price around the world is literally ending before our eyes right now.
But you know the data actually, the dollar as a percentage of global goods and services actually in the last 5 years.
I'm sure it
But
is.
It's
and then
about to switch big
one
time.
feedback to you is that Federal Reserve actually has is tapering the bond purchases. So if you measure in something called WOOC rate, 175 basis points have been hiked. So they are not printing money, they're actually tapering. It's been cut since November. So that's something, just feedback, they're not printing anymore. They're actually tapered it. And then there is a pricing 10-year is 2.82, which is a 10-year government bond yield, which is also showing money tightened. So they're not printing anymore. That's
Thank God.
incorrect.
That's
Yeah.
good. Give your question.
So my question is just to understand a little bit about what you got, right? So I tend to believe that inflation is the worst thing on the world, right? In the world. I mean, it's bad, it's a tax, it hurts. Do you guys understand how deflation affects us, and what would Bitcoin do in the case of deflation? Because we tend to believe inflation is this horrible thing. We had deflation in 2008 and our banking system was collapsed. And before that was during the Great Depression. We don't have a real answer.
Our system was not going to because of deflation. The banking system was collapsed because of stupid leverage.
Because of assets being deflated.
No,
which-
no, no, no. Okay, that's the reason why it had nothing to do with deflation. Deflation was the natural order of the financial law to try and get of leverage and loans, and the belief that real estate will go up and up and up forever. Now you can say that the belief that Bitcoin will go up and up and up and up forever is wrong and misguided.
Here's why I asked about deflation.
But okay, go ahead.
The reason why I asked about deflation is because we have major deflationary forces. Technology is a deflationary force. High amount of credit is also a deflationary force that maintains lower interest rates so you can continue to lend out the money. And the last one that's a highly inflationary force is our birth rates, right? So
Deflation.
yeah, deflationary force.
Correct.
Our birth rates. So the United States is a long-term deflationary trend. Inflation is not the least of our issues. In 2008, look how long it took for us to see real inflation, right? I mean, there was some burst here and there, but if you look at long-term forces that are attacking this country, it's pretty much deflationary.
No.
Technology is a deflationary force because you cut out a middleman.
You think that those are the biggest forces that attack the country?
At this point, as a macro trend, absolutely. On the short-term trend, we can say printing is bad and all this good stuff. I get that. But as a long-term force, we are deflationary as far as population is concerned, unless we continue to import people at the rates we have, which has gone down.
Right. So the deflationary force of population, and I agree, population is becoming deflationary. Only Africa and India are the only two regions with an inflationary birth rate. And eventually that will also end. So that means that the price of real estate is not as amazing as it is, because if the population starts to go down, why is real estate keep going up? It's because a couple of rich people trying to buy up everything, right? Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland.
Let's stay away
But-
from the conspiracies and blaming individuals, right?
Not a
Like,
conspiracy,
Right.
though. It's
Absolutely.
true.
It's reality.
He
right?
talks about there being like global warming, but he buys like a
Right.
$4 million
He buys
property
farm.
on the beach.
So deflation is not inherently bad. Now, yes, the general idea comes from this. If the price of X keeps going down, I will never buy X. I will keep waiting for the price to go down. In reality, that's not true. Okay, if your refrigerator or your toilet in your house breaks, you're not going to wait a month for prices to be lower. You're going to immediately go and buy it. You're going to buy what you need, right? So deflation is not a bad thing.
can I correct you?
Yeah.
So the way that deflation actually works, especially with technology, is that you cut out a middleman. This middleman no longer has an income. So either he's underemployed or he takes more leisure, right? These are the two trade-offs to technology, right?
Or
Amazon
he
has gone
finds
and taken,
another job.
Amazon has gone out and potentially got rid of a lot of mom and pops. Those mom and pops are no longer incomes in the economy.
The government
They either
had a lot to
underemployed,
do with that.
underemployed, I find another job, I work for Uber, I underemploy, or I
it's
take
a
more
better
leisure.
job.
Whoa,
That's an assumption.
wait,
That's a
wait,
discouraging
wait,
assumption
wait.
as well.
First of all,
No, it's not. You can look at the
The
economy
reason
and you can see
why-
what's happening.
Amazon took out mom and pops is because the
The
government
government
forced them
allowed.
to shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start there. Second,
No, there's been a
Uber
long-term
is
trend
an
that Amazon
All
is
right,
improvement.
I think this is a
All
discussion that
right,
needs
so
to
let me
continue
ask you a real,
elsewhere.
this is the last question.
Yeah, ask
The
a real
correlation between the tech, you said software, Bitcoin is software, right? There's a correlation between tech, right? And Bitcoin. It's a 0.69 correlation. How would you guys explain that if this is supposed to be a hedge against inflation?
About the previous one,
But-
just a terminology clarification. The term inflation and deflation have been coined in economic theory to indicate monetary inflation and deflation. So
Correct.
it's inflation when you increase the money supply. So we do have inflation. And it's deflation when that decreases for many reasons which are likely to happen. Then the term has been changed to price inflation and price deflation. Price inflation can happen for two reasons. One is monetary inflation. The other is economy deflation. So the amount of goods and services in the economy is going down. The second kind of deflation is bad. People are just, the economy is shrinking. That's why prices are going down. The first kind of inflation is actually, of deflation is good. It means that there is less money and your money will be worth more to save and to invest in the future. So they are very difficult. They are very different kinds.
Good.
One more question, go ahead.
Last question.
Yes, my name is Julia. I took the Tony class back in 2016, 2017 at the Madrid.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, hi.
Thank you.
My question is, 2017 on 18, it was like a bear market. I couldn't do anything. And then when it's got crypto hit all-time high, I was just like hoping to shoot at more, and then I don't do anything. So all the time I have been doing is pretty much like a HODLing and staking.
That's fine.
Do you guys have any recommendation to do?
HODL stake, buy more.
Buy more?
Anything else?
Keep
What
going.
else is like can I do like more productive? I feel like not doing anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like my.
Yeah, one of the problems that people have is when they keep stacking Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin goes up, they're bored and they don't know what to do. Find a hobby, find something you love to do. Try not to lose all your Bitcoin on your hobby.
Learn to code, help people building better
Yeah,
tool. I mean, I suck at that, but if you can do better, that's great. You can help people building tools for Bitcoin.
And if you can help it, throw events like this, bring people together, teach them the knowledge that you have.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what grows. People get together. It's really network effect. So, all right, you guys, give it up for our panel.
All right, thank you guys. Hey guys, I know you guys are waiting for charts, so I'll take a look at charts for a minute. Hey, how are you? Give me 1 minute. My audience is gonna kill me. Thanks, brother. My audience is gonna kill me if I don't do a little price analysis. So I hope the mic is close enough to me because that was about to get loud. Let me do screen share real quick. Welcome to my life, guys. Unfortunately, I drink all the time, but today there was a shortage of food everywhere. Welcome to food deflation. Okay, weekly chart. All right. Quick analysis. Wait, let me move the camera over. Nope, wrong way. Boom. Boom. All right. This is horrible. The weekly chart looks super bad, and that's all I'm gonna say. The 4-day chart, guess what's about to happen? It's all cash now. Look, the short-term moving average has cost everything. Everything is a disaster. I know I didn't do a video yesterday. Which one?
The last guy.
The deflation guy? We're still on a live stream, by the way, just so you know. I know. I don't know.
Like that. Like, dude, you're mad. Like, why are you so
I
mad?
don't know why do I hate deflation so much. Not that bad. Okay. I'm gonna cheat again. I'm gonna put this like right in the middle of this candle. 100% cash. This is a disastrous candle. Now, the only good thing, the only good thing in this world right now is the fact that tomorrow there's going to be an MRI buy on a daily scale. And this thing better reverse the price of Bitcoin. Because if it doesn't, we are in for a world of hell. Because this shit is about to get really, really ugly if we get anywhere near $38,000. Okay, so MRI warning candle now. In 24 hours, there's going to be an MRI buy. So that MRI buy needs to reverse the price of Bitcoin on a daily chart because everything else looks like an outright disaster right now. And I still think this quarter, the price of Bitcoin is going to reverse and shoot up. I'm sure you guys are hearing a lot of background noise. So I'm going to have to leave it right here. And I'm going to enjoy the crowd. We got about 150 people here. So it's a lot of fun. All right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And I will see you all on the next one. Oh, MRI buy 4-hour chart in 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Keep an eye on that. That's great.
People.
Bye, people.
I hope you enjoyed the argument.
Oh, it was great. All right. Bye, guys.